There are a lot of videos already online on how to replace the convertible motor of this 2005 BMW Z4. So instead of making another one, I'm just gonna follow one that I found on YouTube on how to do it. Let's see if it's as easy as it looks. Come join me in finding out. Hello and welcome to How to Helen, where you learn something different every day. As I mentioned on the intro, we will be replacing the convertible motor of this 2005 BMW Z4. But I will be using the video instructions of YouTube user DB192 to do this project. And I will leave a link of his video in the description section. So according to DB user 192, these are the things that you need for this project. First, you need his video because you need to follow his instructions, a pry bar tool to remove the motor from its location, a 10mm socket to remove the bolts on the side, a T30 Torx, a cutter to remove the cable ties, and a number 4 hex bit to remove and replace the motor from its housing. Let's see if this works.
To start, we're going to need to take the parcel shelf out. There are 2 retaining clips on either side, which you can easily squeeze together and they'll pop through.
Okay, removing the clips on the parcel shelf. Okay, I'm missing one. I see one here. Okay, that's out. And one here. So I only have 2. Then
Next, you have to pull off the fabric seam from the front edge of the parcel shelf.
trims off.
And then you can pull away the hinge on both sides. After that, move the parcel shelf all the way over to the right hand side and you should be able to just slide it straight out.
Okay, how do you pull the hinge? Oh, there you go. Okay, then push it down. Come out, partial shelf. Yay. Alright, partial shelf out. What next?
Next up, we need to take the hinge assembly off on the side that we're working. The first bolt is a T30 Torx bit. The second bolt is a 10mm.
So on DB192, his was a T30 Torx. Mine is a 10mm, but it's all good because I have a 10mm wrench anyway. So take out whatever screw, Torx, or bolt that you have here so we can continue. So after this 10mm bolt, reach out inside to get the other one that's way deep inside. Okay, we got it up.
And the third fixing is a washer with a pin through the center. First, you need to pry out the pin with some pliers. I didn't film me taking out the pin, but you get the idea. And then you can use a screwdriver to pry out the washer. After that, the hinge assembly should be able to come right out. It may get a little bit snagged on the top of the suspension mount, but it will come out eventually.
Okay, so now we need to get this. I'm trying to do this from inside the car because there's no way I'm gonna fit from the trunk. Oops. Yay.
After that, the hinge assembly should be able to come right out.
Now, according to DB192, this should come out, right? Right? Okay, you just needed a little force to do it.
And after that, you should be able to peer in and see the dreaded motor housing. For this next bit, you're going to have to climb inside the boot. I'm about 6 foot and it was quite snug but manageable.
I guess I'm climbing in the boot then.
To give you an idea of what you're working with, you've got 3 cable ties here, here, and there's one right at the back down there. It's impossible to get to them all, so we're going to have to take the top of the motor housing off. Some of them do have tape around them, but mine fortunately didn't. Using a spanner, or I would advise a pry bar, you need to work on finding the edge of the top of the motor housing and just prying that away so you can access the motor.
Okay, by force I was able to pull out the top cover just by pulling it up. So I hope that's the hard part. I hope. I see the motor and I can feel it move, but I don't know how I'm gonna pull it out because I can't get the cable ties or find the cable ties by hand or by feeling it.
So this next bit I needed 2 hands for, so it was a bit difficult to film it, but essentially you're pulling the motor out of the housing and trying to break away any cable ties that are holding the hoses. I found this easiest by guiding in a set of pliers with your hand and just using that to snap away the cable tie.
2 hours later.
Time out. Time out. I'm cramping. I'm cramping.
Now that we have the motor out, you can see that the soundproofing that's around it is completely soaked with horrible rusty water. And it's no surprise really that this motor decided to pack up. Once you've pulled the motor through, you can retrieve the bottom half of the motor housing.
Okay, we're inside the boot. I finally was able to take everything out. This was the lower part of the casing for the motor, and I had to break this off by hand to release the wires that were going through this casing. That's why I couldn't pull it out. Now finally, here's the motor. As you can see, it is very rusty and the motor itself is rusted out. That was the hard part of this project, just taking this out, because everything was tied down by cable ties. I think I took out 3 cable ties to get this out. Pardon my movement. Okay, so this is really rusted, huh? So now what we're gonna do hopefully is take out the motor, clean out this pump housing, take out the motor with a 4 mil or 4 hex. We'll clean this out first, then test if it works. But let's clean this out. This is really disgusting right now.
I'll suggest putting in some paper towel to soak up the water that's at the bottom of it.
I am still following DB192's recommendation, and as you can see, I have towels on the boot and paper towels to clean up when I'm done. And in addition, I'm gonna clean up this housing first, so that when I put the new motor, it's not as messy as it looks, because it's really disgusting right now. So let's clean it up first before we dismantle and put the new motor in. Now before removing the wires, make sure you mark the wire so you know where it goes to. And I'm gonna remember that the green one is on the right side, the blue one is on the left side. Now I'm gonna try to remove the number 4 hex bolt.
Then we'll need to remove these two 4mm Allen bolts, and we want to break the joint closest to the motor. I used some WD-40 on these screws before as they looked quite corroded.
Okay, the bolt is rusted inside, so we gotta clean it a little more to let the bolt go in.
Then as you're about to separate the two, make sure you hold it upside down so the hydraulic fluid doesn't flow out.
Okay, I'm gonna take the motor from the new one first outside the car so I can put it in here later. And remember, when you take it off, it has to be oriented this way so that the pump liquid or oil is not gonna come out. Just additional information, the new one has an O-ring, new O-ring, so if you can use the new O-ring, and don't forget to install it when you take out the old one, or don't forget to take out the old one and put the new one in. Okay, be ready to stand it up because it might spill some pump oil when you take out the other screw. Yep, she saw some oil came out. Just a new O-ring.
Then install the screws and tighten them both up and reconnect the positive and negative wires. Again, you could mark the outside of the electric motor just to remind yourself which way the wires go. To test the motor, first a little microwave switch needs to be pushed down by the front of the parcel shelf.
Okay, we're gonna put the partial shelf back in place and see if this works. Let's keep our fingers crossed.
Push the button and voila, all back and working again.
Unfortunately, after turning on the convertible top, it seems like the hydraulic fluid drained into the lines and there wasn't enough hydraulic fluid. So what we're gonna do is, with this new housing that still has some hydraulic fluid in it, I'm gonna transfer it to this glass and put it in the hydraulic housing that's in the car right now. So on top is a number 4 hex. Take it off, and from there you can drain the fluids. Okay, let's pour the fluid in the glass container. I'm hoping that it is just low on fluid and this would be enough for it to turn on the convertible top. Alright, now we're going to transfer this to the hydraulic motor's reservoir that's in the car. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, here's the plot twist on mine. The motor is running, but the convertible top is not moving. So I took out this manual switch that allows you to open it, close it manually. This is the button for the manual switch. If it is pressed down like that, it bypasses the pump. If it's up like this, it uses the pump to open the convertible top. Mine was stuck shut down, so even though the motor was running, it wasn't allowing the fluid to go in the system and not opening the convertible top. So when that happens, just spray with WD-40 and exercise it by pressing back and forth like this until it releases. Sometimes this seized and stuck open, and that is why your convertible top is not working. Okay, now I've moved the motor out of the way. Let's see if it finally works. It's working! Yes! Yes! It's alive! It's alive!
With the roof now operational, we can relocate the pump unit somewhere dry so we don't have this problem again. Some slight modifications need to be made to the hinge bracket so that the hoses have a channel to run through. I first offered up the hinge bracket, figured out where I was going to cut it, and then used a small hacksaw just to cut a V in the plastic. I also did the same thing on the bracket itself around here, and there we have a hole for the hoses to pass through. So now insert the hinge bracket, making sure the two cutout sections line up and that the hoses and wires aren't pinched. Before we put the parcel shelf back in, we just need to tidy up the pump, so I wrapped some of the dried out soundproofing around the motor and then hid it behind the carpet. Still a perfect job that you'll get from a garage, but it's tucked up out of the way.
So some additional thoughts on my relocation of the convertible motor. I decided to put it over the carpet instead of underneath it, just because in case I need to access it later on for whatever reason, I don't have to tear it all down just to get access to it. So right now at least it's exposed and I can see it without tearing anything down. So that's the difference between what DB192 did and what I did. And that is how you replace the convertible motor of this 2005 BMW Z4 according to DB192. DB192, I approve your video. It was very good. The link to DB192's video is in the description section. This has been another episode of How to Helen. My name's Arja, and thank you for watching.